Sorry.
Hello, everybody. Today, Prapti and myself will talk to you about our analysis on the tech industry dataset, and we'll talk about opportunities and expectations that people can have while deciding if a software engineering career is suitable for them. Now, the punchline here is that the tech industry is not only inclusive, but is also thriving. The key findings we found while analyzing the dataset were primarily around two high-level questions. One, is it easy to get into the tech industry and work as a software developer? What we found out was that yes, indeed, the tech industry is quite inclusive and hospitable for outsiders. You can get into tech regardless of your education background and previous experience, as long as you learn the skills. There is also a very negligible pay gap in the industry, and your gender will not define your career success. Also, your undergraduate major will bear no significance on your career success. The second high-level question here is, even if you get into the industry, is it even worth it? And will it actually help your career? Here, we found out that yes, the tech industry is indeed a thriving industry, and that the mean salaries of the employees are increasing every year. Also, the industry focuses more on practical skills learned on the job and not just your education. The more you spend time in the industry, the more lucrative it gets. Talking about the context and motivation for our work, well, we're all at a stage where we're interviewing with companies and thinking about our career paths. With this, our aim was to clear some of the misconceptions people might have regarding the tech industry to better equip them in making the right career decision. Software engineering seems like a siloed and exclusive career reserved only for those who are already highly technically equipped. But is that true? We explored the Stack Overflow 2018 developer survey dataset to answer this question. Now let's learn a little more about this dataset. So, like I said, our primary data source was Stack Overflow's developer survey 2018 dataset. However, we also analyzed some trend data for which we had to explore similar developer datasets from 2011 right up till 2020. We verified this data with Indeed's software engineering job dataset to ensure that the salary information was accurate. The dataset primarily constitutes information about software engineers from around the world and has fields like their country, their salary, their educational backgrounds, the programming languages they use, and much, much more. In all, a dataset had about 128 different columns. During our initial exploration, we wanted to understand which direction to take with the dataset. Now, this is a geospatial plot of the salaries of the software developers from around the world. On seeing that the highest salaries were paid to people from the United States, Australia, Norway, and a few others, we understood that we can start by focusing on US for further analysis. Furthermore, we also realized that after computer science, information systems was the second most popular degree, after which students joined a career in tech. We also saw that almost every major had a decent contribution in generating software developers. Another thing we saw was that the salary difference between males and females was almost negligible, which was about 8% as compared to the national average of 20%. This led us to explore further about the inclusiveness of this industry. Now, Prapti will delve further into our analysis to show our findings.
Yeah. So as Abhinaav already mentioned, that we are here to answer two key questions. So first question is that can I get into tech? And the second is it worth getting into tech? So first, under the first question, we are answering, is there a gender discrimination in the software development industry? How likely am I to succeed as a beginner? Do I really need a CS major to succeed in this industry? And under the second question, is it worth even getting into this industry? Are the salaries growing in this industry? Is there a stagnation, or can I really succeed if I get into tech? So from the next slide onwards, we'll be answering all these questions. So first box plot here tells us the salary really tells us that there's really no discrimination in the salaries between males and females in this industry. As you can see from the box plot, that the salary ranges for male and female are almost the same. And from the right box plot, we can see that more years that you spend coding in this industry, higher your salaries are going to be. This also helps us understand that this is a very rewarding industry, in fact, that more years you spend coding, more your salaries will be. Now, if we get into the next slide. So after we have understood the gender disparity, we also want to understand that which major after CS is doing well in this industry. So we can see that a lot of coders are coming from information systems, which is really reassuring to us that as CS, as information systems graduate students, we can see that there's a high scope to succeed in this field if we major in this field. Also, other engineering backgrounds also have a high number of responders. So the next. Now, which languages to really learn if we want to succeed in this industry? So we can see from this chart that Java, HTML, and CSS are the most popular languages. However, this is based on our analysis from the data of 2018. Now we want to see, is there a trend in the most famous languages over the years? So if we see the next slide, here we can easily see that over the years, Java has been, in fact, the most popular language. Now, after Java, if we want to see that, are there any other languages that we really want to learn to succeed in this field? So the answer is that in the prior years, like 2016 and 17, SQL was the second most famous language after Java. But in the recent years, with the advent of web technologies and AWS, we can see that CSS and HTML have in fact become the most popular languages after Java. So that's a very important insight for anyone to get into this. So next, now that we have answered all the questions that how to get into this industry, the second question that we are trying to answer is it even worth getting into this industry? So this chart will help answer this question. So the above line graph shows that the salaries for all majors currently working in this industry have been going up over the past couple of years, right from 2017 till 2020. And the major spike that we see in the salaries is the maths and statistics major, which has even seen a higher increase in the salaries than CS. And the bottom bar graph shows us that after CS, the most number of people working in this industry combined for the 4 years are in fact information systems, which is again a reassuring thing for all of us here that if we are majoring in this field, it's a very high chance that we'll be successful in this field. And we can also see that web development that we saw in the languages also before, that the web development has seen a major spike in the salaries, which means that it could be the next big thing in the forthcoming years. So now this chart again helps us explain the correlation between the years coding and the average salaries, that over the years, we can see that the average salaries are increasing, so are the years of coding. So there's a direct correlation between that, and we can be really successful if we keep coding, and it is a really highly rewarding career. Now, while analyzing and working on this data, we understood some of the data limitations, that the data quality has increased drastically over the past couple of years. In the responder data, in the initial couple of years, we saw that the data was really skewed and the salary numbers were in billions for some of the responders. So we had to remove it and to analyze the data better. Also, the nature of the questions were not that structured initially, but now it's been over the years has become very, very structured and easier to analyze. Now, the second most important finding that we had from analyzing this data was that this data could in fact be biased because this is a Stack Overflow data. And when we saw in our, as we saw in our data set, that most of the people were from responders were from US, but in fact, when we actually Googled it and analyzed on net, we saw that the most number of people working in this industry are from Germany. So this told us about possible selection bias in this data set, which means that this data is not essentially representative of the responders from all over the world. So now I'll just hand it over to Abhinav to talk about other metrics.
Thanks, Prapti. Now, we've been talking about getting into tech and how it will help you succeed. But before that, we also wanted this presentation to be a lesson in life, and we wanted to ask you what success really was for you. As we can see from the cell in the confusion matrix highlighted in red, there is almost no correlation between salary and career satisfaction. This means that software developers identified that increasing salaries didn't really make them appreciate their career more. So our request for you would be to identify what success is for you and just use our information to aid your decision making. There were also some other observations that we identified that corroborate what we already told you, like how gender and salary have practically no correlation, and how as you increase the number of years you spend coding, the salary also increases. We talked about success and how you have to define it. But for us, success would be if we inspired you to give your tech aspirations a real shot. This is from Prapti and me, and thank you so very much and have a really good day.
Thank you so much, everyone.